What is going on, guys? Welcome to your 72nd Java tutorial, and in this tutorial I'm going to be teaching you guys how to build a multiple selection list. And in the last tutorial you guys learned how to build a list with a single selection, or in other words you can only select one item at a time. But in this tutorial I'm going to be building a program where there's a list on the left with a bunch of items, and there's a button in the middle, and when you select a bunch of items on the left and click the button, it moves it to the right. So it's going to be a pretty cool tutorial. And actually the cool thing about this tutorial is all the hard stuff we need to do is already built into Java, so I just need to teach you the methods. So let's go ahead and get started. Make sure you have all your imports right there. I'm going to go ahead and minimize that, and now let's go ahead and start making some variables. We need two lists and a button to start out. So private j list, and the first list I'm just going to name left list, since this is going to be on the left hand side, and I'm going to make another one identical to this, but I'm going to change, can't keep talking, I'm going to name this right list, since this is the list that's going to be on the right hand side. So now we made two variables for left list and a right list, and they're both j list. So now let's go ahead and just make a button, private j button, and I'm just going to name mine move button, because that's what it's going to do. It's going to move the stuff from the left to the right. It's actually going to copy it, but you know, what's the difference? Now of course we need an array, or pretty much items to go in our list, and I'm just going to have it private static, and I'm going to have a string because you know it's just going to be names, and I'm going to have foods. You can have anything you want, it really doesn't matter, but foods sounds something it'll be interesting. So let's go ahead and type the foods I like, which is of course bacon, and let's see what else. Wings, had some last night, they were amazing. Bone sucking sauce, look it up. Ham, and let's get like two more. Beef, I don't really like beef all that much, but I like the name of beef, and that's the important thing. And the last thing, of course, more bacon. And let's go ahead and end this. So now we have an array called food, and actually name that foods, because I mean it's foods. Bacon, wings, ham, beef, and more bacon. Now I'm gonna make sure I got that. And so now we have the four variables we need for this tutorial: left list, right list, the button, and the array. So now let's go ahead and start, well, I guess we can go ahead and start building our constructor. So public GUI, of course it doesn't take any arguments, and let's go ahead and add a title first called super. Just name it title, and make a layout next. So set layout, and of course nothing new here. We're going to build new flow layout with empty parameters. And now let's go ahead and start editing that list on the left. The first thing we need to do is populate it with the foods. So it's new JList, and anytime you use a JList, it takes the argument of an array. Or in other words, what items do you want to put in it? So we want to put those foods in it. So let's go ahead and put foods in it. Bam, a little too easy. The next thing we're going to want to do to left list is, if I spell it right, is add the visible row count. So set visible row count, and make sure, bam, look at that. How easy is that? So how many of these items do you want to see by default? And I want to see 3 items by default. So now that our list is 5 items, but we can only see 3, what we need to do is add something called a scroll pane that we're going to add later on. But for right now, left list dot set selection mode right there. Too lazy to type it. And let me go ahead and end this statement. And our selection mode, unlike before, it's going to be list selection model, not Mosel, model dot right there, multiple selection. And what this means is, unlike last time where you can only select one thing at a time, with multiple interval selection, using your control and shift keys on your keyboard, you can select multiple items at a time using this. So now the last thing that we need to do to our left list is add it to the screen. And also, like I just told you guys before, we need to add a new J scroll pane right here. And what this allows you to do, if we add the left list eventually, is it allows you to have a list bigger than default viewing, and it pretty much just put a scroll bar on your list. That's what I'm trying to say. It pretty much puts a scroll bar on your list. So now we did our left list. So now all we need to do now is make our move button and right list. So go ahead and put move button and set these equal to new j button, and make sure you have a space in between there. And the parameters for this is the text you want to appear on the button. So I'm just going to have move and a little arrow, just like that, so we know that we're moving from the left to the right. So now we can go ahead and add action listener, in other words, functionality to this move button. So move button dot add action listener, awesome. And of course, this is going to have an inner class because it's a lot easier. So inside your add action listener parameter, just go ahead and make a whole new class called new, not boo, new action listener, just like that. And this class, of course, doesn't take any parameters. And inside your new action listener inner class, we want to have one method, and if you can see by our error, it's called action performed. So let's go ahead and add public void action performed. Make sure I spelled it right. Performed. Looks good. And as your parameters for this, just write action event. Bam. This is a little too easy. That's the only problem with it. Now we can finally get to the good stuff of what we want to do. Again, this is all default stuff that you need. That's how they just made the program. But now we get to the custom stuff, what we want to actually do. Well, the first thing we want to do when we click the move button is build our right list. We already built that left list, but the right list depends on what we select in the left list. So go ahead and type right list dot, and the first thing we need to do is set the list data, or set the things we want in the list. So go ahead and set list data, and what this does is it takes an array as its argument, just like just like JList took an array as its argument. Set list data is also going to take an array as its argument to set the list data. So how do we get an array of selected values from the left list? Well, this is another cool thing. Just go ahead and type left list dot get selected values right there. How awesome is that? Get selected values. And what left list dot get selected values does is whenever you select stuff on the left hand side of your screen or in the left list, it makes an array of those selected values, and that array is going to be passed into set list data, and essentially is going to create a list on the right hand side depending on what you selected on the left hand side. How cool is that? We don't have to make a new method for set list data. We don't have to make a new method for get selected values. Everything's already built in method. So that is, it's just awesome. So now that we made this button and we added some functionality to it, let's go ahead and do one last thing, and of course we need to add it to the screen. So let's just go ahead and click add move button, and now our move button is added to the screen. So in the next tutorial we're going to be finishing up this program and actually building a right list, and you'll see what I mean in the next tutorial. So for now, I guess I'll see you next time. Thank you guys for watching. Don't forget to subscribe, and I will see you soon.